And we're
Okay.
in some trip. Oh, we're live.
Morning. You're on mute, sir.
There we go. I like how Jimmy just
There we go.
started it when we were
No.
just talking.
That's all right. We do a little stars talk. How about that?
Yeah, no, for real. What a game. My favorite
know.
goal of all is the empty net goal. I love those goals.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's the best.
And what a the score that went off two skates? Is that what it was? It rebounded off both.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Skaters. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I say, how did that even score?
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's always good to go up 1-0. I thought that I thought we had an edge because they had played, a couple nights before and we were well rested and everything, but you never know what's going to happen. There's no home ice advantage anymore. So Jimmy will join us momentarily. He is here, so don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We have our standard Facebook user. We love to see you.
Good morning, Facebook user.
Good morning, faceless Facebook user. If you have any trouble with that, you can go to from our Facebook group. You can go on. I've got a post that shows you how to unhide yourself, so we all know who you are. Or if you just want to be anonymous, you can do that.
That's perfectly fine too.
Morning, Cassie. Your husband made it. He's here. He complained about his voice all morning, so he's feeling great. Standard Jared.
Is he laying the groundwork in case he misses a note later? Is that what it is?
That's how you do it. That's how I do it. You give some sympathy. You're like, oh, my allergies, my throat's all, and then you coast through it, man.
Yeah,
you're all good. Here's Mom.
Pretty smart.
Howdy, Mom. You need an updated picture of CJ. That's an old picture of CJ.
Now, is the little red that's coming from YouTube? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's YouTube. Yeah.
All right.
I like it.
But you can't comment on YouTube, right?
You can.
Is that the way that? Oh, you can.
These are comments on YouTube.
Okay, so they're coming from YouTube.
Yeah.
Good.
And then if we put them on, if I click on them, then they'll show up if you comment on YouTube, people on Facebook can't see it and vice versa unless you show it.
I got you.
I'm glad you get to hear it too. Oh yeah. We all get to hear it.
All right. So we have back to church Sunday this morning. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to actually being on campus here in a few minutes. So
about to say you're doing back to church Sunday from your house.
Yeah, just this session. It's a little easier to teach from here, and if I don't have any other early morning responsibilities, so that's good.
From near the dragon. Okay, wow.
All right,
Buddy. Buddy. He was helping to refill our blessings box. That needs refillment, if that's a word, on a weekly basis. We had a good work day yesterday. Yeah. We had a work day with the deacons. Although you and Jared Donnerworth, you got into some fun on Thursday and Friday.
Famous last words from Jared. Hey, I have some liquid nails. Let's go put those tiles back up. I said, okay. Yeah. It was literally 10 minutes before you're leaving, and then we got into an 8-hour project. So, but it needed to be done. And like I said, if I could have erased all the cameras on campus, we may have just left. But I didn't know how to do that. So.
Well, it looks great. I'm glad you guys did that. We had air filters changed. We had a tree. If you come to campus, you'll see, if you look in kind of the children's play area where the Gaga Ball pit is, you'll see that something that was there is no longer there. So there's a tree that was cut down and hauled off and given to one of our people. So
hey, can I horn in on this?
There he is.
Come on in.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys?
We are great.
Oh,
you're the professor. You get the 15-minute rule.
That's right.
You can just come in.
just pop in. I can just pop in. So, oh man, what a gorgeous day! What
Oh yeah.
a gorgeous day! I been looking forward to this day. So,
Yeah, we were just talking about work day. Looks like it was successful. So, thanks for everyone's help. And
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I think Kim started even Tuesday or Wednesday during the week, so it's kind of an all-week thing. It seemed like. So,
yeah,
appreciate everyone giving their time for that.
Well,
So.
that's always a good thing when you can kind of serve it, at your calendar. It's a wonderful thing when it can happen. So, but yeah, a lot of good stuff, and that's the nice thing is, you do a little here, a little there. You don't have those big, huge gorilla days like we used to.
Yeah, that's true.
Used to require. So, oh man, so crazy, 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 man! What crazy days. Josh is taking a cough break.
Yep, we need a. They have a cough button, right?
A cough button. That's right.
I went down the wrong pipe. Trying to drown myself on coffee.
It's good to see everybody out there. I see Arkansas represented and Tennessee represented. Glad to have you guys. So
we're talking stars.
I'm a little worried. Though. I don't see a comment from Viviana, so she must be going to be in person this morning.
Yeah, she must be on campus.
Let's hope so. I'm used to seeing her pop up, so I have to tell her.
It's a good reminder. I need to be cognizant of the time, so I don't leave everybody.
Yes,
it's alone in there. Here's Facebook user watching on YouTube today. So there's a double secrecy there.
That's good. Yes, we got 1-0, up 1-0. I always say we, like I'm part of the Stars, but
I'll tell you, they look strong. I mean, so we'll see. The Lightning were coming off of a short rest, but it's off to a good start.
Got to win those games. That's good.
Today is the close of the Tour de France, so if you're a cycling enthusiast, you'll be watching for that. So
I haven't watched the Tour de France since they did Lance Armstrong wrong.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh man.
It's like he was doping. They were all doping. Our dope guy beat your guy.
Yeah, for just finishing that thing. That's incredible. Really is. So
morning, brother.
Hello to our
I didn't know if
Florida
anyone from Florida would join. So family's all safe. They've got damage, but all that can be cleaned up. So I know they've got a long road ahead of them.
It's just, it's crazy. We need just to pray for our nation. California, not only in the midst of the wildfires and all that entails, did you see they had a 4.3 earthquake over the weekend? I mean, I just don't. It's getting harder and harder not to defend California. I don't know. Maybe God is judging them. I don't know. But terrible. And one of the firefighters lost their lives, and that's horrible. And crazy days.
Over here saying, "Hey, that MP is me," so I'll have to tell her how to go and make sure that she shows up, give StreamYard access. So she goes, "That's me. How come I'm not showing up?" So, Viviana, I was worried.
My class in there is getting rowdy. Someone come get them. I'll be in there in just a couple minutes.
That's hilarious.
Oh, goodness.
That is hilarious. So
yeah,
we better hope.
I'm excited today. I'm hoping folks, will maybe use this as an occasion to kind of get back. We'll see. And it's a beautiful day. Beautiful. I mean, if there was ever a good time, now's a good time. So
we had one of those garage sales. Those garage sales yesterday.
Yes.
And talked to several people that came up. We're doing back to church Sunday today, so which is good. So that's.
I wonder if our Methodist, Presbyterian, and Episcopalian friends are back in today. I haven't heard. Well, John at Kavanaugh was on video, so I'm assuming they must not be back in person.
Not sure.
My goodness. My goodness.
But we will be.
But we are live and in charge. So
And we got the blue shirt memo, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
The blue shirt.
Got to get blue. And I got this one personally monogrammed by a moderately budgeted print shop here in town.
Yeah.
So
they do marginal work. I hear.
Problem is, I have to be conscientious when I go clubbing.
When you're out partying.
When I'm out partying, or when I'm yelling at the gal at the drive-through, I would be sure not to wear my monogram shirt.
I always see that when people, people go out to eat after Sunday church, and they're all whatever to the wait staff. I'm like, they all know you came from church. You better not talk about not our people. I'm just talking about in general. But you better not say which church you're from, because you're about to drive some people out.
Well, see, that's why I wear shorts.
I hate to say this, but when I was a lost individual working on Sundays, I hated to work on Sundays.
I think Jimmy's audio is like a half second off because he keeps coming in a little late.
Yeah, Jimmy, you might have to drop and rejoin because I think you're actually behind us just a little bit.
It's the same pick, Mom.
I'm behind you?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. See, that was Josh. That was like you might just have to off and on if you maybe once we. Oh, there he goes. Kind of funny when his mouth moves. There's no audio.
It's like an old Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Gojira.
That's good.
It's so hard being me, man. I tell you. So hard being me. Yeah.
My mom asked if this pic was better, but it's the exact same photo, so I don't know.
Yes, it looks great.
It looks good job, Mom.
She's playing that Sunday's cartoon page. What's different between these two pictures?
Hey, I miss the old cartoons in the newspaper.
Yeah. What was your go-to?
Oh man, I still love Peanuts. I just like it was just fun. I could understand it. It wasn't one of those cartoons that was trying to be, edgy or anything. It was just funny.
What was the one that was had the sergeant and it was kind of like they were set in the army. Which one was that one?
Beetle Bailey.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah. Oh, the broadcast.
I changed my Wi-Fi connection. Maybe that'll help.
Oh, you're on the Commons again?
Yep. Good.
Yeah.
Yes, no matter how many times I tell my computer where I want it to pick up, it won't listen. So
I hear you.
What do we to do? So
can you forget all those others? Go in there and just forget everyone except the one you want?
He forgets stuff all the time, Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, we are at that age.
and there's some that are in close enough proximity and their names are very
Yeah.
He means, I know you kept the autocorrect changed it, but yeah, Calvin and Hobbes, that was a great one.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it being in the news, and I don't remember being it in my newspaper. Did y'all have Calvin and Hobbes in the newspaper?
Yep.
Okay.
We did.
Nice.
We did.
Well, I'm gonna run to it's 9:10, so I got to run to the other building. So I will see you gentlemen on the flip flop.
And I want to say special thanks to everybody here on my watch party. Thanks for being here. Now back up and listen to some good teaching.
All right, here we go. All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. So we are continuing our series, fan or follower series. This morning, Jesus is speaking to a whole group of people. So he's actually speaking to the Sanhedrin. We'll be in Matthew chapter 23. And Jesus is going to get the attention of, we'll call them a group of fans. They were a group of religious leaders. And really, if we were trying to figure out who's a fan and who's a follower of Christ, you would think that those in the church would be more followers than they would be fans, or religious leaders would be more followers than fans. But, perhaps we'll see today that maybe we have some areas of improvement as well. So these religious leaders, they certainly had a mastery of the scripture. They were, considered experts in their field. They were certainly known for their strict observance of the law, and they would have, scored higher marks if we were keeping score for religious rule keeping. But we'll be in Matthew 23 this morning. I'm not going to read all of the chapter, but I'll just hit a few verses here as we get started, and then I'll come back to a few. So Matthew chapter 23, starting in verse 1 says, Then Jesus spoke to the multitudes and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees have seated themselves in the chair of Moses. Therefore, all that they tell you, do and observe, but do not do according to their deeds, for they say things and do not do them. And they tie up heavy loads and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are unwilling to move them with so much as a finger. But they do all their deeds to be noticed by men. And we'll skip down to verse 13. This is sort of seen as there's 7 woes that Jesus speaks about here. The word woe can mean either grief or curse, one of the two. But 7 times in this sermon, Jesus will say "woe to you" and then follow it with a scathing rebuke. And I'll summarize some of those. Verse 13. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, because you shut off the kingdom of heaven from men, for you do not enter in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Verse 14, woe to you, because you devour widows' houses, even while for a pretense you make long prayers. 15, woe to you, hypocrites, because you travel about on sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he becomes one, you make them twice as much as the son of hell as yourselves. That's kind of an interesting one. Woe to you, blind guides, who say nothing, but whoever swears by the gold of the temple, he is obligated. And it goes on throughout the rest of the chapter, but you kind of get the gist here. Here in this sermon, Jesus is just not warning or giving a caution to the religious leaders. He is given a direct clarification or opposition to the leaders, saying what they're doing does not match up with what they're saying. So he doesn't want people to confuse following the rules with following him. And he's going to give a distinction here in this particular sermon. He's calling out these religious leaders. And, again, his indictment is you're saying the right things, but you're not doing, the right things. And sometimes we have a saying, say as I do as I say, not as I do, when that's kind of negative. And Jesus is saying, for us, do what they say, but don't follow their actions. And that's really a sad indictment. If we were talking about our pastor, this morning, we certainly would not want to say, hey, just follow what he says on Sunday mornings, but don't do anything he does during the week. How sad would that be? So that's what Jesus is saying to these leaders here. But in Matthew 23, he's addressing the Sanhedrin. It's made up of 72 religious leaders. You've got the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and I'll give a couple, distinctions of those particular groups, and then perhaps we may see if we fit in one of these areas or a part of one of these areas, because the whole point of us going through this particular lesson series is to identify those areas in our lives where we may be fans and not necessarily 100% committed followers. And we all have those areas in our life. None of us are perfect, right? So let's see if there's some areas that we can kind of shore up and get on the path of following Christ instead of just, wearing a mask that I'll talk about later. So with the Sadducees, they had a liberal interpretation of Scripture. They served as the chief priests, as the elders. They were kind of born into the position. It was part of their legacy, part of their heritage, and maybe had a sense of entitlement. Pharisees had a more conservative interpretation of Scripture. They achieved things by hard work, by study, by training. It was not really part of their lineage, and they kind of worked into the position. So I want to take those very high-level distinctions of these groups, and then kind of see if we can relate it to our walk, as believers in the church, as fans in the church, as followers in the church, or in our faith. So some of us could be like Sadducees. Their faith was really something they were born into. I think about my children. I'm not saying my children are Sadducees, but what I'm saying is that they really didn't have a choice whether or not they went to church. Lynn and I made that commitment, that decision early on, and I think you probably heard before, if you were, if you're not throwing up or burning up, you're getting up and you were going to church, right? And that was kind of what we did. Now, as adults, they certainly have that choice. So, but what I say here is some fans and some of us think that, my daddy's a believer, my great grandmother was a believer, my aunt was a believer, and they took me to church every time the doors were open. So therefore, I was just kind of born into this way of life. And we have to be careful that we don't identify with the spiritual legacy or heritage that maybe our parents have tried to establish, because we have to take on the mantle of Christianity ourselves. So it wasn't really a choice for Sadducees. That was kind of part of their lineage. They, for us, what I want to make sure that we don't do is that we don't end up mirroring our parents or other Christian influencers in our life, even though it might be positive. But don't. I'm just losing the word. Don't think that is a relationship with Christ just because your mama had a relationship with Christ. These Sadducees could certainly act and talk and preach and sing just like everyone else. Sometimes, as fans, we know how to interact within a church setting, and their faith is more of honoring a heritage than it is a surrendering of the heart, and maybe something that's their own. So, what I would caution us today is, we always said that we're going to take a hard look at our relationship and our faith during this series, and let's just make sure that as we identify, ourselves and our relationship with Christ, that we're actually working on our relationship with Christ, and we're not just honoring something that our parents laid out before us or some other Christian influence in our life. We could be like the Pharisees. Maybe our faith is measured by our hard work. We just had a work day the other day. I'm so thankful for all the individuals that came up and worked. I know for a fact that the pastor is thankful as well. But we can't work our way into heaven. We can't do things. Just because someone cut down a tree doesn't mean they have an extra favor. With the Lord. We're just simply being, obedient. And I am thankful for those individuals that came up and worked so hard, but we can't measure our faith by our hard work. We can't measure our faith by learning and following all the rules. If I can find the verse 4 of 23, and they tie up heavy loads and lay them on men's shoulders, but they are, sometimes, if we're not careful, we can lay all these burdens and all these things and all these rituals and all these rules that we have to follow. And sometimes we want to measure our faith against that. And our goal is not intellectual knowledge, right? It's not behavioral compliance. It's, okay, I need to act this way, and I need to say these things, and I need to do this with my hands, and I need to do this with my posture in church, or I need to wear this, or whatever the case is. And sometimes we say and do the right things, but not necessarily it's not necessarily a reflection of our inner self. So I say all these things to say none of this is enough for Jesus. Some of these things are good. Listen, learning the hymns and doing the work and be obedient, and all these things are good byproducts of a relationship. But Christ wants all of us, and He wants a relationship with us, not just our checkbook and our hands and feet and what we can learn about Him. So. So here, I'm going to call us, and especially, myself, to take an honest look at where we're at in our work, and we need to decide: are we on this path of a relationship with Christ because it's what we want to do? Excuse me, it's because what we want to do, or it's what's expected of us. Now, I think most of you know I was baptized at 13. I was saved at 21. At 13, I kind of did what every other 12, 13, 14-year-old was doing at the time. It was time to get baptized. So I raised my hand, went and got baptized, right? I'm not saying it wasn't, I probably thought it was the right thing to do at the time. I certainly wasn't, knowingly doing something, to mislead folks, but I just really didn't understand what a relationship with Christ was. I really didn't understand that until later in life. So, so for 8 years, I was kind of wearing this, religious mask. I was in the youth group. I was going to camp. I was doing all the things, youth choir, all those type of things, right? But I really didn't have that relationship. So, I thank the Lord, every day now, that that I was able to understand what that distinction was. It wasn't about doing the things of the church. It was about having a relationship with Christ. So fans can really look good in what we do. We can have all the rules down. We can know what to say. We can know how to interact with church. We're not lost in a church setting or anything like that. But we have to be careful that we don't put on the mask of Christianity that was handed to us by someone else, or that we built with our own two hands. And we put that. It's kind of funny that we're talking about masks when everyone's wearing them now, but there's a lot of masks that we wear as Christians, and we'll talk about a few of those here in a few minutes. But so sometimes fans are more focused and concerned on what our outward appearance than our inward, development of a relationship with Christ. And the main problem that Christ had with these leaders is they were hypocrites. And so, the term hypocrite comes from Greek actors, that you would have a single actor putting on a performance, but they would change mask all the time. So you never see the person behind the mask. So you never see me. You just see all the masks that I put on. So, and you can kind of, imagine that in our lives that there are probably several masks that, if we're not careful, that we can put on. We can put on a church mask. We can put on a marriage mask. We can put on a work mask. We can put on a friend mask, and we can show different things depending on who we're with. And Jesus was saying he took offense with the leaders of this day. They're saying, um, he was telling the people, he's saying, listen to what they say and do that, but their actions aren't matching up with the words. So don't follow their example, follow their words. And I certainly expect out of my pastor that his words and his actions, align. I would hope that you expect out of me that my words and my actions, align. Neither one of us are perfect. But we hope that more often than not, our words and our actions certainly line up one another. So let me remind you again in Matthew 23:5. But they do all their deeds to be noticed by men. Jesus calls out these religious leaders, and as fans and being characterized as fans, sometimes we want to get caught up in what other people see, and we're more concerned about our outward appearance than we are, again, with our internal relationship with Christ. And then he, verses 1-3, Jesus speaks to the crowd and he says, the scribes and Pharisees have seated themselves in the chair of Moses. Therefore, all that they do and observe, but do not do according to their deeds, for they say things and do not do them. He says, the problem Jesus had with the teachers is that they were teaching, but they were not a reflection of what they taught. How long would you go to Authentic Life if our pastor taught things, but was not a reflection of the things that he taught? And we're so thankful that those things align, for sure. And I think we should expect that out of any Christian, just not as a pastor, right? So, so these religious types, these fans, and it's important for me to say this. I'm not casting, we're not talking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They're our example here. When we talk about fans, we're talking about us. We're talking about Christians, people in the church. Sometimes, if we're not careful, we can fall into these traps and wear these masks. So I want to just make sure that we don't kind of stand on the outside looking in and say, yeah, they shouldn't do that. If we're going to take a real hard look at ourselves and our relationship and actually move towards the type of relationship that Christ wants, some of the things may or may not apply to us. And if we actually hear something, we need to actually take the steps to do something about it. So, the Sanhedrin were fans that Jesus had issue with, and I want to just go through a few examples and see if some of this might resonate with you. Blessing your meal. Do you only bless your meal depending on who's watching? Sometimes, if we're honest, maybe. Fans would never go to an X-rated movie, but they might have one or two on their online subscription because it's in their home and it's not outside. Fans might help someone in need, but they are probably going to make sure that someone knows about it. Fans may give financially, but they might want to see someone see them place that offering in the offering plate. Fans might, and this one was really interesting when I read this one in the book. Fans secretly like to see others fail because it makes them feel a bit better. Jimmy, maybe we can talk about that one when you come back on. I thought about that for a long time, and it's kind of sad, but sometimes we feel better about ourselves when others fail, and we don't have to really do anything more. We're better than the person next to us. It's kind of like outrunning the bear, right? You don't have to be the fastest guy in the world; you just got to be fastest than the person next to you. But that was I don't know why that one hit home, but it did. Primary concern in raising their children is they don't want to be a bad reflection. They don't want them to be a bad reflection on them. Maybe fans who are listening to this right now are assuming that we're talking about someone else, that it certainly can't be about us. And sometimes fans wear the mask so long that they start fooling themselves. So for 8 years, from age 13, and that's some development years, I'll give myself a little break, 13, 14, 15, but 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, I'm becoming an adult. I still wore that mask for a while until I decided at age 21 that I needed to get my life right with the Lord. And I, thanks so much for that, particular day. So Jesus has harsh words for those fans who try to impress others through their religious credentials. And Jesus doesn't want us to be perfect, but he wants us to be authentic. And it's one of the reasons why we have the name that we have. If we simply want to be authentic, and it's hard to be authentic, but it's challenging and rewarding when we are. So, all right. So if you learn how to wear the mask, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but sometimes we wear a marriage mask, and we want everyone to know that our marriages are just the best marriage in the world. Marriages struggle. And what I would say is, let me say this: if someone comes to you and pulls their mask off and actually reveals something to you and has a real honest, open moment with that, have respect for that and integrity for that moment, and don't go blasting that around, because we need to be able to count on one another. So sometimes we may need to take that marriage mask off, and it's just not working out. We need to figure out how we can get it going in the right direction. Our kids aren't perfect. Grandkids may be perfect, but our kids aren't perfect. And sometimes we struggle with what our kids are going through. Sometimes we struggle with addiction, whether it's substance abuse or whether it's sexual or whether it's financial. Maybe we're in the process of being reformed. Maybe we've coming out of a close, intimate relationship with law enforcement, and now we are recovering from that, maybe with some type of gambling addiction or something like that. Or maybe we're just struggle with pride or forgiveness or mercy and grace, some of those things, right? We wear a lot of masks, and whatever mask that you're wearing today, I would encourage you to kind of pull that off and talk to somebody about it. So Christ wants in a follower someone who is not going to pretend to be someone they're not, but Christ already knows who we are anyway. So we perfect our mask wearing, and I would challenge us today to get ready to take those off. I'll take maybe 60 more seconds, but growing up, we like to play make-believe, right? For me, I wanted to be an astronaut. Who didn't want to be an astronaut or a fighter pilot or something like that? Some people want to be cowboys or firemen or superheroes or princess or whatever the case is, right? And the unfortunate thing is sometimes we never grow out of playing make-believe. Maybe we're not playing dress up, cowboys and Indians anymore, but we want a version, and we want to pretend who we are socially or religiously or in the workplace or wherever we may be. So what I would encourage us today is choosing a relationship over our rules. What I'll say is, if you're not with us, so you want to be like Christ on Tuesday nights, if we want to have a deep, intimate relationship with Christ, it does start with obedience. But it's obedience to God and His ways, but it's not following a bunch of rules that are laid down by the church. So just let's choose relationship over rules, and let's lay aside guilt and pick up grace. Sometimes when we follow rules and we are involved in the church, sometimes religion becomes a burden at times. And what I would say is let's look at grace. And I would hope that as we go through this walk, that we would teach people not to be fans. We'd not be fans ourselves, but focus on teaching others to be followers of Christ. These religious leaders are supposed to be an example to those who need an example, not only in word, but in deed. So I want to encourage us to be examples in both word and deed. So, Pastor, if you want to come back on, I know I went a couple minutes over, but we're down one. Josh is teaching, which is our new normal. So
yes. Well, I want folks to know. See, I take notes too. See, so I can't encourage you enough to take notes, but I also want to say, I appreciate my religious heritage. I was very fortunate to have that. But I also agree that if we're not careful, it can be a detriment. Whether we use it as an excuse to reject biblical truth, which was my path, or we use it as an excuse to be a believer by association. One of the great challenges I believe all of us who have a religious heritage is when does the faith of our fathers become our faith by choice? Mm-hmm. And I think everyone will have to make that decision, whether they're 18 or 28 or 40, but that is a challenge. And the unfortunate truth is I think that challenge is a little less today because I don't see as stringent an adherence in many family lives today, and I don't mean that in a judgmental way, but when faith and the things of faith are maybe a little more out of convenience than conviction, then the generation behind you, there's a much higher potential for them simply to abandon it altogether. And I'm probably not going to give too much away, but someone may be speaking to that just a little bit in the next hour.
Isn't it funny how that works?
The Lord's word, man, the Lord's word. And
that's right.
You had mentioned specifically about when believers root for the failure of other believers. It is an interesting thing, isn't it? How mm-hmm. almost by nature, believers are competitive towards one another. I've shared this before, but growing up, I attended a Methodist church here in town, and it was the largest youth group in town at one time, and no one ever taught it to me. But in my mind, I thought if you weren't at my church, then you were the competition. And if we're not careful, we can find ourselves. You may not fall into the trap of rooting for their failure, but you'll easily fall into the trap of celebrating their failure.
Yeah, and part of that, Pastor, is probably do it so subconsciously, but we tend to look at other people as our measuring stick.
Yes,
right. And
absolutely.
If we can say, well, I am doing better than so and so over here, and then we feel much better about ourselves. But our plumb line is Christ.
Yes.
Right. It is not. I think and respect the world of you, but and you would agree with this, is you're not our measuring stick.
No.
You're a guide. Definitely guide, right? Pointing in the right direction.
Yes.
But we should be looking at Christ. And The things about, and I didn't touch on this. I did want to kind of touch on this. Is if we just worry about the rules of the church and things we're supposed to be doing, we get caught up on that, and we don't. Well, that's when guilt sets in, and eventually we're going to get tired of feeling guilty, and we're going to say, I don't want part of this anymore.
Yes.
And so we have to make sure that as believers that we're gracious to those, well, to all of us who stumble, just not anyone else. But and it has to be rooted in a relationship with Christ, because that's our anchor point, right? That's what keeps us grounded, and it's not the things that we do. Even though church life is amazing, I don't want any other. I want my time with other believers. I look forward to Sundays, and I know you said it the time again, but because it's not a burden. But I think if it ever become a burden, it was just so easy to walk away, right?
Well, when we as a church, or when we as believers base our lives on what we do not do, when the reputation of who we are as believers solely rises and falls on what we do not do. I mean, when I was a Methodist youth, one of the things I knew Baptists didn't do was they didn't dance.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite understand that. And one of the most telling experiences of my student ministry career was a local high school was having homecoming. And I wanted my youth ministry to provide soft drinks. Simply carry them to the gym, make them available with a sign, happy homecoming, compliments of,
that church. Yes.
Yeah, that church. And I was firmly told that was unacceptable because it was a dance. And to this day, I reject that. And so if we as individuals or a group of believers become known by what we do not do, we will grow tiresome of it. And we will grow judgmental, because eventually, if those are the plumb line, which is a great illustration you used, then our plumb line will measure against others. That's why that's why there's people in this town that call us Alternative Life Fellowship. Is because what they do and what we do aren't the same dues, and what they do has a higher priority. And so they measure our spiritualness by what they do or they do not do. And, we'll just pick low-hanging fruit. It's whether everyone wears long pants to church, and whether those of a particular birth gender don't wear non-pants. Yeah, that's it. And they call us alternative life, and that's derogatory. There are people who say that, and the intention is you're not as spiritual as us because of this and that and the other. Well, the truth is we want to be known not by what we do not do. I want to be known by what I do, beginning with, I love the Lord more than anything else. And then all the things that trickle down from there. That's what I want to be known. I want to be known as a guy who loved the Lord. And, if you want to know me by what I do not do, that's fine. But I would much rather be known by what I do.
Yeah. And the thing is, for us, if you want to wear long pants to church, wear long pants. If you want to wear shorts, wear shorts. If you want to wear a T-shirt that says Aggies on it, wear a T-shirt that says Aggies on it. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind putting something in the bylaws against that.
But maybe that one thing. So,
but it is a tragic thing, and I mentioned it last week during Believer in the Ballot. It's a tragic thing when you want the leadership of our nation to fail simply because politically you don't see eye to eye, and it is an internally tragic thing when you as an individual or a group of individuals will look at another local lowercase c church and hope for their failure. I mean, if they are biblically sound, we are all in the same team. We're all pulling the same direction. We all have the same, who would root for that? Well, I mean, that is, it's like hoping your siblings fail. It's just, but unfortunately, if we're not spiritual, then we're I'm trying to think, carnal. You're either spiritual or you're carnal. That's what
right.
you are. And if you're not spiritual, you're carnal. And if you're carnal, then you're going to see things the way the world sees things. And that means other people. That means other churches, other ministries. And that can start from the top up. Jeff, I'm not going to lie. As a pastor, you get around pastors and pastors start talking about what pastors talk about. And sometimes it's really hard because you're like, well, Lord, am I not really doing what you want me to do? Because we don't look like, church C or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it can be very difficult. And the one thing that is grounding is this: God never called me to be Billy Graham, as much as I would love to be. God never called me to be David Jeremiah or Warren Wiersbe or, you just feel God called me to be Jimmy. And he is most glorified when I am the best version of myself I can be.
Amen.
And that's important for us. And to put on the masks of what other people think we should be.
Well, take that as, I would challenge us this week is we all have a mask. It's either on our face or sitting nearby. Okay. So let's just challenge ourselves and discover those masks that we may have in our lives and see if we can set them aside for good and be authentic and best versions of who we can be. There's a question here. It says, do you think we are taught to challenge one another when we're small through things like contests or through things like contests? I think we all have a competitive nature for sure.
Sure.
And we want to compete and be, the best, that we can be. But I'm a person that loves, contests and sports and believe I'm a better person because of, that competition. We just have to keep it in check. But
right. Well, and it boils down to what's the win? Is there competitiveness between churches? Well, I mean, yes and no. But the question is what's the win? Not every church is going to be 1,000 people, but the win is are we Christ-like? Are we faithful? And so yes, we have to teach a balance of what competitive look. Because Jeff, I'm like you. If I'm keeping score, I'm playing to win.
Yeah,
I mean, now I'm not going to sacrifice my testimony to win. Someone asked me what my handicap at golf is, and I don't cheat. But there is also a sense of competitiveness, even in a spiritual vein. How many people do I want to come to ALF? All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
How many people do I want to stay at ALF? All of them. I just.
But what's the reality?
No.
This will not be home for every person.
No.
Not every person will stay. But we want what is best for those individuals.
That's exactly right.
And I don't know if folks know, but I'll say this, and then we'll have to go. But when folks come and they're part of our fellowship, and maybe it's not right for them, I know for a fact your pastor and other people in the church will help them look for a place, because we want where God wants them, and if it's not, we just want them going. I have
personally done a 3-way phone call with an individual and another minister.
Yep.
Because the win is that they are where God wants them. That's the win.
That's
and
right.
I always pray that the win would be here, but that's okay. It's the kingdom. It's the him. It's not the me. I'm just me. I'm a cloud rolling across the prairie.
Oh man.
Just a cloud.
All right, buddy. You'll start singing or preaching if we don't go.
I know. Listen, you got 15 to get here.
I know it.
We're going to do an introduction on Samson today. Man, oh man, if you're not familiar with Samson and the time of the judges, you want to get here. And if you can't get here this morning in person, by all means, get up, go potty up, get coffee up, come back and see us here in 15. Jeff, you did a great job. I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
In there.
All right. See you.
Bye.